Hello Moto GP enthusiasts. Welcome back to ZNGP Today. Marco Bezzecchi delivered a dream result at Mugello, converting pole into a home victory that carried huge emotional weight. The Italian managed pace, tyre life and pressure from rivals to take a famous win in front of passionate Tifosi, dedicating the moment with a helmet tribute and admitting the relief of finally breaking a long personal hoodoo at his home circuit. Pecco Bagnaia returned to the podium at Mugello, delivering a composed and physically demanding ride that felt like a turning point after months of struggle. The Italian led for large portions of the race, managed tyre and traction issues under pressure, and left Tuscany optimistic that his recovery and Ducati's adjustments are finally paying off. Marquez left Mugello encouraged after a physically demanding weekend that marked a meaningful step in his recovery. The reigning champion returned from double surgery, qualified strongly and fought in a tight mid-pack battle, ultimately fading late but reporting the absence of the nerve numbness that had plagued him, a development he described as a new feeling. Pedro Acosta said the intense battle for fourth at Mugello with Marquez was the kind of racing Moto GP needs, highlighting close passes, contrasting strengths and valuable learning for a young rider. Acosta finished the race just behind Marquez after a long, tactical fight that showcased corner speed versus straight-line power and underlined KTM's ongoing top speed shortfall. Don't forget to click subscribe button and the bell icon for MotoGP news update. Bezzecchi revealed he had been thinking about winning at Mugello since Thursday but avoided obsessing over it. The pressure from fans and expectation built all weekend, turning the result into a personal milestone rather than just another race win. I've been thinking about this victory since Thursday. The pressure this weekend has been intense. Home wins carry extra weight. Converting that emotional load into performance is a rare skill and a sign of maturity. The race featured a tense early duel with Jorge Martin and a blistering charge from Pecco Bagnaia, who briefly looked like the fastest man on track. Bezzecchi managed tyre temperatures and positioning, choosing moments to lead and then to set his own pace when rivals began to fade. I wanted to be in the lead because I knew my front tyre would last longer without anyone in front. Controlling the front tire's temperature and avoiding dirty air were key tactical choices that paid off in the closing laps. The last two laps tested Bezzecchi's concentration as the roar of the crowd became impossible to ignore. He resisted the urge to overdrive, kept a measured rhythm and crossed the line to an emotional outpouring. Maintaining focus with the finish line in sight is often harder than the physical task. Bezzecchi's composure under those conditions marked a step forward in his development. Bezzecchi wore a helmet dedicated to Alex Zanardi, calling the tribute important for Italians and for Zanardi's family. The gesture amplified the emotional tone of the weekend and connected the victory to a broader national narrative. I'm glad I wore the helmet dedicated to Zanardi here. It was an important message for me and for all Italians. Symbolic gestures at home races deepen the bond between rider and public and can make a win feel historic rather than routine. The win consolidates Bezzecchi's championship lead and provides momentum for Aprilia. On a personal level, he described the victory as lifting a curse, a long-held dream finally realized in front of family and fans. It felt like a curse. I just kept thinking about giving it my all to achieve it someday. Beyond points, the psychological boost of a home win can catalyze confidence that carries through the season. Marco Bezzecchi's Mugello triumph is both a sporting statement and an emotional landmark. It strengthens Aprilia's title credentials while resolving a personal narrative that had weighed on him for years. If he can carry the composure he showed in the final laps into future rounds, Bezzecchi's confidence and Aprilia's momentum make them a formidable force as the championship heads into its next phase. Bagnaia fought to protect third place in the closing corners as AI Ogura closed rapidly. He used late braking and a defensive line on the final lap to deny the overtake, accepting a risky maneuver because he judged the straight line advantage would prevent a counterattack. If he had tried to overtake me, he would have run wide. It was a somewhat risky strategy, but it worked. Holding position under late pressure requires both nerve and precise exit control. Bagnaia's straight-line speed was decisive. From the first lap, Bagnaia focused on preserving the rear tire, knowing the Ducati's traction limits would be decisive late in the race. He balanced early aggression with conservation, then defended when rivals began to close. I tried not to push the rear tire too hard, but from the halfway point I started having problems. Mugello punishes rear grip. A successful podium often comes down to who manages degradation best. Bagnaia was candid about Ducati's current shortfall, rear grip. He linked the bike's different balance to reduced cornering stability, and said the team is working to restore the package to the field that won him titles. What we lack is rear grip. It seems like the Aprilia enters corners faster because it turns better, but that's a consequence of the rear grip. Rear traction affects corner entry, mid-corner speed and exit. Fixing it would unlock broader performance gains. Mugello's podium carried huge emotional weight. Bagnaia described the moment as restorative after a difficult spell, calling the result close to a victory, and celebrating the crowd's support and the team's progress. Seeing that sea of people under the podium is one of the best feelings for a driver. A home podium can reset confidence and provide momentum that extends beyond the points earned. Bagnaia believes the result is a starting point rather than a finish line. He expects upcoming circuits such as Balaton, Brno and Assen to suit Ducati better, and hopes continued setup work will close the gap to Aprilia. His promise: keep fighting for wins as the package improves. I promise I will fight for victory again. If Ducati can recover rear grip without sacrificing top speed, Bagnaia's form and Mugello's boost could make him a consistent threat again. Pecco Bagnaia's Mugello podium combined tactical intelligence, engine advantage and emotional release. The ride did not erase Ducati's technical questions, but it showed progress in tire management and racekraft. If the team narrows the rear grip deficit and Bagnaia builds on this confidence, he could turn this reappearance into a sustained return to the front. Marquez returned after surgery to address radial nerve irritation and a fractured foot, both of which had disrupted his season. He completed the full Mugello weekend, ran competitively in qualifying and engaged in several on-track duels during the Grand Prix. For me, the most important thing is that the numbness was not there. Completing a full race weekend without the previous neurosymptoms is a major rehabilitation milestone for a rider with repeated shoulder interventions. Marquez qualified fourth and battled through the race with several rivals, including Pedro Acosta. He lost ground in the closing stages as fatigue set in, acknowledging he felt super tired, with laps remaining, but praised his willingness to fight until the end. I gave everything until the body and the right arm said okay, stop. Late race drop-off is expected after a long layoff. The priority is sustainable progression rather than immediate peak endurance. The surgery's primary aim was to remove nerve compression and restore sensation. Marquez reported improved neurofeedback and described new muscular sensations as the arm reawakens, a positive but delicate phase of recovery. I feel like I had new feelings on the arm. This was the most important, and it was the target of the surgery. Restored sensation is encouraging, but rebuilding strength, coordination and endurance remains a separate, time-dependent process. Marquez downplayed the foot fracture's impact, calling it peanuts compared with the shoulder issues. He said the foot was not a limiting factor at Mugello, while the shoulder remains the primary focus for rehabilitation. The injured foot is like peanuts compared with what I have in my shoulder. Prioritizing the shoulder makes sense given its direct influence on braking, throttle control and arm pump on modern Moto GP machinery. Marquez framed Mugello as a starting point rather than a return to previous form. He emphasized daily incremental gains and a mental commitment to push the arm progressively while respecting medical limits. From now on, it doesn't matter what my 100% is. I will try to reach my 100% every day. A measured, session-by-session approach reduces the risk of setbacks and gives the team clear markers to judge readiness for longer stints and harder races. Mugello provided Marquez with a valuable benchmark. The nerve symptoms that once limited him are gone, and he can race without the previous tingling. Physical fatigue and muscular reconditioning remain the constraints, so expect a cautious expansion of his workload across upcoming rounds. If progress continues without complications, Marquez could steadily increase his competitiveness. For now, Mugello is best read as a promising step in a careful comeback rather than a full return to peak form. Acosta and Marquez traded places repeatedly through the middle stanzas of the race, producing a sustained, entertaining scrap that lasted most of the distance. Acosta was often quicker into and through corners, while Marquez used Ducati's superior straight-line speed to fight back. I hope the fans enjoyed it on TV. I think the championship needs more races like this one. Extended two-way battles expose setup and tire differences, and create the kind of on-track theater that benefits the whole championship. Acosta treated the duel as a classroom. Running behind Marquez let him study braking points, lines and pace management from one of the sport's most experienced racers. He used those laps to test his own lines and to see where he could extract gains. I was able to spend a lot of time behind him and be able to see how he is managing the pace with all the experience that he has. Young riders often accelerate development by shadowing veterans in race conditions. Acosta's comments suggest he gained tactical as well as technical insight. Acosta acknowledged KTM's recurring top speed deficit at Mugello, which cost him overtakes on the long straights despite being sharper in the turns. The team will analyze data to understand why the brief improvements seen in the Americas did not carry into Europe. Today we know more or less that we were going to miss it, top speed. Mugello magnifies aerodynamic and power differences. Resolving straight-line shortfalls is essential for KTM to convert cornering strength into consistent results. After a difficult Friday, Acosta's turnaround to fight for fourth was encouraging. He admitted the overall performance level still needs work, but the race showed resilience and the ability to extract a strong result from a compromised starting position. The recovery was good, but the performance is still quite poor. We need to keep going. Weekend recoveries that culminate in strong race pace are useful confidence builders and provide clear data for targeted development. The duel underlined how different machines and riding styles create varied race narratives. Corner-dominant riders can still be vulnerable on the straights, and vice versa. For Acosta, the priority is to close the top speed gap while keeping the cornering advantage that makes him dangerous in traffic. Teams that balance aero, engine mapping and tire strategy best will turn qualifying deficits into race day gains. Pedro Acosta's Mugello fight with Marc Marquez was both a spectacle and a practical lesson. It entertained fans and gave KTM actionable clues about where to improve. If KTM can recover straight-line performance while preserving Acosta's corner speed, he will convert these close battles into consistent top 5 finishes. For now, the duel is a reminder that Moto GP's best races come from contrasting strengths and riders willing to race hard. Thanks for watching ZNGP Today, and this is your Moto GP news update. And see you next time!